I opened my front door at 5 in the morning to catch my flight, and there she was. A woman, maybe 30, sitting cross-legged on my welcome mat with an infant bundled against her chest. Her hair hung in greasy ropes around a face that might have been pretty once, before exhaustion carved it hollow. The baby, impossibly small, made no sound. My name is Thessaly Crane, and if you had asked me a week before what kind of person I would have told you I was kind, compassionate, the type who donates to charity and recycles religiously, and always holds the elevator. I would have been wrong. The woman looked up at me with eyes the color of dishwater. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Everything about her screamed desperation, from the torn hem of her jacket to the way she curved her body around that silent baby like a question mark of protection. My hand tightened on my suitcase handle. "I'm sorry," I said, and I was already closing the door. "I can't. I have a flight." Before we get going, please leave a comment telling us which state or city you're watching from. And please don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can grow and bring you more compelling stories. I had a flight. 6 years of working 70-hour weeks at the consulting firm, 6 years of canceled vacations and skipped birthdays and relationships that withered from neglect. This was my reward. 10 days in another country, a luxury resort, silence. I had earned this. I deserved this. The door clicked shut between us. Through the peephole, I watched her stand slowly, awkwardly, one hand supporting the baby while the other braced against the doorframe. She moved like someone whose body had given up on her. She didn't knock. She didn't beg. She just stood there for a moment, swaying slightly, before she turned and walked away down the hallway of my apartment building. I grabbed my suitcase and left through the parking garage exit 10 minutes later. I told myself I would call social services from the airport. I told myself someone else would help her. I told myself that I couldn't save everyone, that I had to take care of myself first, that putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others wasn't just airplane protocol, but life philosophy. I told myself a lot of things during that cab ride to the airport. The flight was direct. 7 hours of manufactured air and recycled anxiety. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that woman's face. Not accusatory, not angry, just empty, hollowed out by whatever series of catastrophes had led her to my doorstep at dawn. The baby's face I couldn't remember at all, which somehow felt worse. I had downloaded 3 novels to my tablet. I read the same page of the first one 11 times before I gave up. The woman sitting next to me, designer handbag tucked under the seat in front of her, ordered a glass of wine and fell asleep before the beverage service even finished. I envied her that easy unconsciousness. The resort was everything the website promised. White sand beaches, infinity pools that seemed to pour directly into the ocean. My room had a balcony overlooking water so blue it looked photoshopped. I unpacked my carefully selected vacation wardrobe, hung my dresses in the closet, arranged my toiletries in the bathroom. I did everything right. I lasted 2 days. 2 days of lying on beach chairs while servers brought me drinks with tiny umbrellas. 2 days of spa treatments and gourmet meals and sunset yoga classes. 2 days of expensive, curated, utterly hollow paradise. Every moment felt like I was watching myself from outside my body, observing Thessaly Crane pretending to be someone who deserved relaxation. On the 3rd morning, I booked a return flight. The hotel manager looked at me like I was insane when I checked out 8 days early. "Is there a problem with your room? With the service? Please, let us make it right." "No," I said. "Everything's perfect. I just need to go home." The flight back felt longer than the flight there, even though it was the same 7 hours. This time, I didn't even pretend to read. I just sat there, my mind spinning through possibilities. Maybe she was still in the neighborhood. Maybe I could find her. Maybe it wasn't too late to be the person I wanted to believe I was. I took a cab straight from the airport to my apartment building. It was late afternoon, the sun slanting through the windows in dusty gold bars. The hallway where I'd last seen her was empty, of course. I don't know what I expected. That she would still be sitting there, waiting for me to change my mind? I unlocked my apartment and stepped inside. The air smelled stale, and everything looked exactly as I'd left it. The coffee mug I'd been too rushed to wash still sat in the sink. The book I'd been reading was still splayed open on the coffee table, spine cracked at the same page. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. I dropped my suitcase and pulled out my phone. I didn't know where to start. Homeless shelters, hospitals, the police. What would I even say? I saw a woman with a baby a week ago, and now I feel bad about it. I called the building manager instead. His name was Hector, a soft-spoken man in his 60s who had worked in the building for 20 years. He answered on the third ring. "Hector, it's Thessaly in 4C. I need to ask you something. About a week ago, early morning, there was a woman with a baby sitting outside my door. Do you know anything about that?" Silence on the other end. Then a sigh, long and weary. "You saw her." "Yes. I was leaving for a trip, and she was just sitting there. I didn't help her. I need to find her." "Do you know who she was?" Another pause. "Come down to my office. This isn't a phone conversation." Hector's office was in the basement, a cluttered room that smelled of coffee and old paper. He was sitting at his desk when I arrived, and he looked older than I remembered. Tired. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat. "Her name is Ottoline Vetch," he began. "She lived in 6F for 3 years. Good tenant, quiet, always paid her rent on time. Then about 8 months ago, things started falling apart. What happened? Her husband left. Just walked out one day, cleaned out their bank account, and disappeared. She was 5 months pregnant." Hector's jaw tightened. "She tried to keep up with the rent, but without his income, she couldn't manage it. Started missing payments. I gave her extensions, but the building owner found out and threatened to fire me if I didn't evict her." The words landed like stones in my stomach. "You evicted a pregnant woman?" "I evicted her 2 weeks after the baby was born." His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands were clenched into fists on the desk. "I had no choice. The owner was clear. I have a wife, grandkids who need their college funds. I couldn't lose my job." "Where is she now?" "I don't know. She left the building with 2 garbage bags of belongings and that baby. I haven't seen her since." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and his eyes were red-rimmed. "She knocked on every door in this building that last night, every single door, asking if anyone would let her stay just a few days while she figured things out. Do you know how many people helped her?" I couldn't speak. 0. Everyone had a reason. Too small an apartment. Allergies, work travel, a relative staying over. Everyone had a reason. He picked up a coffee mug, looked at it, set it back down without drinking. "She came to my apartment last. My wife and I, we have a guest room. It's not big, but it's clean. We could have let her stay. Why didn't you?" "I was afraid. Afraid the owner would find out. Afraid I'd lose my job. Afraid of all the ways it could go wrong." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I was afraid, so I said no. And she thanked me anyway. Thanked me for being kind to her while she lived here. Then she left." We sat in silence. The fluorescent light above us buzzed like an angry insect. "Why was she at my door specifically?" I finally asked. "She wasn't there for you. She was just sleeping there. The hallway cameras stop at each stairwell, so there's a blind spot by your door. She must have found it, a place to rest where security wouldn't immediately kick her out." He looked at me. "You just happened to be leaving early that morning." The weight of that coincidence felt enormous. A few hours later, a few hours earlier, and I never would have seen her. I could have gone on my vacation with a clear conscience, blissfully ignorant. But I had opened my door at exactly the wrong moment, or exactly the right one, depending on how you looked at it. "I need to find her," I said. "Why? So you can feel better about yourself?" The question was brutal and deserved. Maybe, probably, but also because a woman with a newborn is living on the street, and that's wrong. Lots of things are wrong. Lots of people are suffering. You can't save everyone. I know that, but I saw her. She was sitting on my doorstep, and I looked at her, and I closed the door. I can't undo that, but maybe I can do something now." Hector studied me for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a file folder. "This is her tenant information. Last known phone number, emergency contacts, previous employer. It's against policy for me to give this to you. I could lose my job. He slid the folder across the desk. I took it with trembling hands. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just find her, and then actually help her. Don't just throw money at the problem and walk away feeling virtuous. Really help. I nodded and left his office with the folder clutched to my chest, like a shield or a confession. The phone number in her file was disconnected. Not surprising. The emergency contact, listed as her mother, answered on the second ring. Her voice was sharp, suspicious. Who is this? My name is Thessaly Crane. I'm trying to locate your daughter. Which daughter? The question caught me off guard. Ottoline. A bitter laugh. Of course you are. Let me guess. She owes you money too? No, nothing like that. I just want to help her. Help her? Where were you when she needed help 6 months ago? Where were you when her worthless husband took everything and left her pregnant and alone? Where were you when she was calling everyone she knew begging for a place to stay? I didn't know her then. And you don't know her now. So why do you care? I couldn't answer that question honestly. Because I felt guilty? Because I wanted to prove to myself I wasn't a terrible person? Because the image of her sitting on my doorstep had burrowed into my brain and I couldn't think about anything else? I saw her, I said instead. She was sleeping outside my apartment door with her baby. I didn't help her then. I want to help her now. Well, good luck finding her. I haven't heard from her in weeks. She stopped calling after I told her she couldn't stay with me. I have my own problems. I can't take on hers, too. Do you have any idea where she might be? Homeless shelters? The street? I don't know. I stopped keeping track. Her voice cracked slightly. She made her choices. She's an adult. I can't keep saving her from herself. This wasn't her fault. Wasn't it? She's the one who married that loser. She's the one who got pregnant when they could barely afford rent. She's the one who didn't have a backup plan. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your own life. I wanted to argue. I wanted to point out all the ways the world was stacked against people like her daughter, all the systems that failed, all the small cruelties that accumulated until they became catastrophic. But her mother's voice was already defensive, already armored against guilt. I recognized it because I heard the same tone in my own head. If she contacts you, will you tell her I'm looking for her? My number is... She won't contact me. The line went dead. I sat on my couch and opened the folder again. Previous employer, a retail store in a shopping mall across town. I called them next. The manager who answered sounded harried, distracted. I'm trying to reach a former employee of yours. Her name is Ottoline Vetch. Who? I repeated the name. Oh, right, her. She quit months ago, just stopped showing up. Do you have any contact information for her? A forwarding address or... Look, I have a store to run. I can't help you track down every employee who flaked on us. Try her directly. I'm trying to. I'm worried about her. She has a baby and... Not my problem. Good luck. Click. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Every door was closing. Every lead went nowhere. I could keep calling, keep searching, but I was starting to understand the real obstacle. It wasn't that she was hard to find. It was that no one wanted to help me find her. Everyone had already decided she was someone else's problem. I thought about giving up. I thought about telling myself I'd tried, that I'd done my due diligence, that some situations were just too complicated for one person to fix. I thought about going back to work and resuming my carefully constructed life. Instead, I grabbed my car keys. I spent the next 5 days driving through my city like I'd never seen it before. I went to every homeless shelter within 20 miles, showing her picture from the tenant file to intake coordinators and volunteers. Most of them looked at me with a mixture of pity and suspicion. Some were kind, others were dismissive. None of them had seen her. Lots of women with babies come through here, one volunteer told me at a shelter on the east side. They all start to look the same after a while. I'm sorry. I went to free clinics and food banks. I went to churches that offered meals and community centers that provided services. I made copies of her photo and posted them on community bulletin boards with my phone number. Looking for this woman. If you see her, please call. I want to help. Someone called the number 3 days later. A woman's voice, cautious. You're looking for Ottoline? Yes, yes. Do you know where she is? Maybe. Who are you? A friend. I just want to make sure she's okay. She doesn't have friends who live in nice apartments and drive new cars. I looked down at my car keys, surprised. How do you... I saw you putting up flyers yesterday. At the community center. You don't exactly blend in. A pause. She's at the park. The big one downtown near the library. That's where a lot of people sleep. If you're really her friend, you'll bring food. Real food, not just sandwiches and diapers. Size newborn. Which park? There are several. The one with the fountain. The big one shaped like a fish. You can't miss it. The line went dead before I could ask anything else. I went to a grocery store and spent $200 on supplies. Diapers, formula, baby wipes, bottled water, protein bars and fresh fruit and pre-made meals that didn't need refrigeration. I loaded everything into reusable bags and drove downtown. The park was bigger than I remembered, sprawling across several city blocks with walking paths and playgrounds, and that ridiculous fountain shaped like a leaping fish. It was late afternoon, and the place was busy with joggers and dog walkers and parents pushing strollers. I walked slowly, scanning every bench, every shaded corner. I found her near the back of the park, away from the main paths. She was sitting under a tree with her back against the trunk, the baby sleeping in her arms. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her face was sunburned, peeling across her nose and cheeks. She was rocking slightly, a continuous gentle motion, like she couldn't stop moving. I approached slowly, carefully, the way you'd approach a stray animal that might bolt. Ottoline? She looked up sharply, her body tensing. Recognition flickered across her face, followed immediately by wariness. You. Yes. Me. I'm Thessaly. I lived in your building. I saw you that morning outside my apartment. I remember. Her voice was flat, exhausted. You closed the door. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She looked away. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. I know. But I want to help now. I brought supplies. Diapers, food, water, whatever you need. I held up the bags as proof. She stared at the bags for a long moment, then at me. Her eyes were calculating, suspicious. Why? Because I should have helped you then. Because you were sitting on my doorstep and I walked away. Because I can't stop thinking about it. So this is about your guilt? Yes, partly. But also because you need help, and I can give it. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's just help. Please, let me do this one thing. She looked down at the baby in her arms. The infant was stirring, making small sounds. His name is Corwin. He's 6 weeks old. He's beautiful. He's hungry. I've been watering down the formula to make it last longer. Her voice cracked. I know I'm not supposed to do that. I know it's bad for him, but I don't have a choice. I knelt down and set the bags in front of her. Now you do. There's formula in here, the kind the hospital recommends, and diapers, and food for you. She reached out with one hand, keeping the other arm secure around her son. Her fingers touched the top of one bag, hesitant, like she expected it to be a trick. Then she pulled it closer and looked inside. I watched her face as she saw the contents, the way her jaw tightened, the way her eyes filled with tears that she blinked back furiously, the way she nodded once, sharp and quick, like she was agreeing to something with herself. Thank you, she whispered. There's more. I want to help you find a place to stay. Get you back on your feet. I have savings, and I can... Stop. She held up a hand. I don't need your savings. I need a job. I need childcare. I need a landlord who won't run a credit check. I need a lot of things that money alone can't buy. Then tell me what you need. I'll figure out how to help. She looked at me for a long moment, studying my face. You really mean that? Yes. Why? You don't know me. I'm no one to you. You're not no one. You're a person who needs help. That's enough. She laughed, bitter and short. You have no idea how many people have said they wanted to help. How many people made promises and then disappeared the moment it got complicated. Help is easy to offer when you don't actually have to do anything. I know. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, right now, and I'll be here tomorrow, and the day after that. I sat down on the ground across from her, making myself uncomfortable on purpose, committing to the moment. The baby started crying, a thin, reedy wail that made her wince. She shifted him, trying to comfort him, but he only cried harder. He's hungry. I need to feed him. Feed him. I'm not going anywhere. She pulled a bottle from her bag, one of those cheap plastic ones that probably cost $1 at a convenience store. The nipple was worn, almost torn. She mixed formula with water from a bottle, her movements practiced and efficient despite her obvious exhaustion. The baby latched on immediately, sucking frantically. He's always this hungry, she said quietly. I can't keep up with him. I can't make enough formula. I can't afford diapers. I can't afford anything. She looked up at me, and her face was raw with something beyond exhaustion, defeat. I'm failing him. Every day I'm failing him more. You're not failing him. You're surviving. You're keeping him alive in impossible circumstances. That's not failure. It feels like failure. I know. We sat in silence while the baby drank. Around us, the park continued its normal rhythms. Children laughing on the playground, dogs chasing tennis balls, people living their uncomplicated lives. I had everything planned, she said suddenly. Before he was born, I had a plan. My husband and I, we were going to be good parents. We were going to save money and buy a house and give him everything, and then it all fell apart. One day I had a partner and a home and a future. The next day I had nothing. What happened? He met someone else, at his office, started spending more and more time at work, and I thought he was just stressed about the pregnancy. I thought he was worried about money. Turns out he was just fucking his coworker. She said it without emotion, like she'd worn the anger down to nothing through repetition. He left me a note, said he wasn't ready to be a father, said he needed to figure himself out, said a lot of things that meant absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. No one's surprised. Apparently everyone knew what kind of person he was except me. She adjusted the baby in her arms, wiping a drop of formula from his chin with her thumb. I was so stupid, so blind. I saw what I wanted to see. Loving someone doesn't make you stupid, doesn't it? I trusted him completely. I built my entire life around him. I gave up my career to support his. I moved across the country away from my family because he got a job offer. I made myself small and dependent because I thought that's what you did when you loved someone. She looked at me. Turns out when you make yourself small, it's easy for people to step over you. The words hit me harder than they should have. I thought about my own life, my own careful smallness. The way I'd constructed everything around work, around achievement, around being useful and productive and acceptable. The way I'd pruned away anything that made me inconvenient or messy or difficult. I know what that's like, I said quietly. Do you? Do you really? She gestured around the park at the tree we were sitting under, at the bags of supplies at her feet. Because it looks to me like you're doing fine. I'm alone. I have a career and an apartment and savings, and I'm completely alone. No partner, no close friends, no one who would notice if I disappeared for a week. I came back early from vacation because I couldn't stand being by myself with my thoughts. I laughed, but it came out wrong. I'm the kind of person who closes doors on homeless women with babies. That's who I am. She studied me with new eyes. That's who you were. What's the difference? The difference is you came back. You came looking for me. That counts for something. The baby finished his bottle and she lifted him to her shoulder, patting his back with a rhythm that was clearly routine. He burped, a tiny sound that seemed too small to come from a living thing. She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her, and for a moment she looked young, hopeful. He's perfect, she whispered. Whatever else is wrong, he's perfect. He is. She looked at me over his small head. If you really want to help, if you're not just here to make yourself feel better for an afternoon, I need real help. Long-term help. I need someone who's going to stick around when it gets hard. I will. I promise. Don't promise yet. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Then tell me. She took a deep breath. I need a place to stay. Somewhere stable where I can keep him clean and fed and safe. I need childcare so I can look for work. I need someone to vouch for me to landlords and employers because my references are all from a life that doesn't exist anymore. I need time. I need patience. I need someone who won't give up on me when I'm difficult or ungrateful or when the situation gets complicated. Okay? Just okay? You can stay with me in my apartment. I have a second bedroom I use as an office. It's small, but there's room for a crib. We can figure out the rest as we go. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you need help and I can provide it. That's all I need to know. I could rob you. I could be dangerous. Are you? No, but you don't know that. Yes, I do. You could have knocked on my door that morning. You could have demanded I help you. You could have made a scene. Instead, you just sat there, quiet, trying not to bother anyone. That tells me who you are. She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. That tells you I'm pathetic. It tells me you're proud. There's a difference. The baby started fussing again, a little whimper that made her wince. She rocked him, shushing softly, but her eyes never left my face. If I say yes, if I take your help, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to be more trouble than you think. I'm going to have bad days where I can't get out of bed. I'm going to be suspicious and defensive, and I'm going to test you to see if you really mean all these things you're saying. I know. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. You think this is going to be simple. You think you're going to help me, and everything will get better, and you'll feel good about yourself, and that'll be the end of it. But it's not simple. Nothing about this is simple. I don't need it to be simple. I just need to help. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. Why are you doing this? I thought about lying. I thought about giving her some noble answer about human compassion and doing the right thing. But she deserved better than that. Because when I closed that door, I felt something die inside me. Some part of myself that I wanted to believe was good. And I need to know if I can get it back. I need to know if I'm capable of being the person I want to be instead of the person I've become. I met her eyes. You're not the only one who's failing. You're not the only one who needs help. She was quiet for a long time. The baby had fallen asleep again, his tiny face peaceful in the crook of her arm. Around us, the afternoon was fading into evening. The park was emptying out as people headed home to their dinners and their televisions and their safe, comfortable lives. Okay, she finally said. Okay, I'll come with you. But if this goes wrong, if you change your mind, if you decide I'm too much trouble, tell me immediately. Don't string me along. Don't let me start hoping and then pull the rug out. I can't survive that again. I won't change my mind. You might. Then I'll tell you. I promise. She nodded slowly. Okay. Help me pack up. She had pitifully little to pack. 2 garbage bags, like Hector had said. One full of clothes that looked like they'd been worn for weeks without washing. The other full of baby supplies, most of them nearly empty. I helped her stand, supporting her elbow when she swayed. She was lighter than she should be, all sharp angles and shadows. When was the last time you ate? I asked. I don't know. Yesterday? The day before? I give him everything. He needs it more. We're stopping for food on the way home. I'm not hungry. You're eating anyway. She smiled slightly. Bossy. Practical. We walked through the park together, slowly. She moved like someone who was used to pain, favoring her left side, wincing with each step. The baby slept through everything, impossibly peaceful. I carried the garbage bags and the grocery bags, weighed down with physical proof of just how little she had left. My car was parked on the street a block away. I loaded everything into the trunk while she settled into the passenger seat with her son. She looked wrong in my clean car, like a painting that didn't match its frame. But she also looked relieved, and that was enough. There's a diner 2 blocks from my apartment, I said as I started the engine. Best burgers in the city. We're going there first. I told you I'm not hungry. And I told you you're eating anyway. She leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but that's my problem, not yours. The diner was exactly as I remembered it, all chrome and red vinyl booths and the smell of grease and coffee. We slid into a booth in the back corner, away from the other customers. A waitress appeared almost immediately, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and sensible shoes. "What can I get you, ladies?" I ordered 2 burgers with everything: fries, onion rings, milkshakes. Ottoline tried to protest, but I ignored her. When the food came, she stared at it like she'd forgotten what a real meal looked like. "Eat," I said. She picked up the burger with both hands and took a bite. Then another. Then she was eating like she'd been starving, which of course she had been. I watched her, feeling something complicated twist in my chest. Satisfaction and shame mixed together until I couldn't tell them apart. The baby woke up while we were eating and started crying. Ottoline immediately put down her burger and reached for him, but I stopped her. "Keep eating. I'll hold him. You don't know how. I'll figure it out." She hesitated, then slowly passed him to me. He was so light, barely heavier than a bag of flour. His face scrunched up and turned red as he wailed. I held him against my shoulder the way I'd seen her do, rocking gently, and to my surprise, he calmed down. Not completely, but enough. Ottoline watched us while she ate, her expression unreadable. "You're good with him." "I have no idea what I'm doing." "You're doing fine." She took another bite of her burger, chewing slowly. "He likes you." "How can you tell?" "He's not screaming anymore." We finished the meal in relative silence. The baby dozed on my shoulder, warm and impossibly trusting. I thought about all the times I'd seen parents with infants and thought it looked exhausting, complicated, inconvenient. I'd thought a lot of things about parenthood, none of them appealing. But sitting there with this tiny person breathing against my neck, I understood for the first time what people meant when they talked about the weight of responsibility. It wasn't a burden, it was an anchor, something that mattered enough to change the shape of your life. When Ottoline finished eating, she sat back with a sigh. "I ate too fast. I'm going to be sick. Breathe slowly, it'll pass." She nodded, pressing a hand to her stomach. "I haven't been full in weeks. I forgot what it felt like. From now on, you eat 3 meals a day. No negotiation. You can't afford to feed 2 adults and a baby. I can. And I will." She studied me across the table. "You're serious about all this?" "Yes. Even though it's going to be complicated." "Especially because it's going to be complicated." She laughed, sudden and unexpected. "You're crazy." "Probably. This is never going to work." "Maybe not, but we're going to try anyway." I paid the check and we left the diner. The drive to my apartment building took less than 10 minutes. I parked in my assigned spot in the underground garage and helped Ottoline out of the car. She stood looking around at the clean concrete walls and the orderly rows of vehicles like she was visiting another planet. "I used to live here," she said quietly. "I used to park right over there." She pointed to a spot 3 rows away. "I used to come home from work and unload groceries and complain about how far it was from the elevator. I took it all for granted. You didn't know you were going to lose it." I should have been prepared, but I thought I was safe. I thought if I just did everything right, if I was a good person and worked hard and followed the rules, nothing bad would happen to me. She looked at me. I was wrong. The world isn't fair. No, it's really not. We took the elevator up to the 4th floor. The hallway was exactly as it had been that morning weeks ago, bland and beige and anonymous. I stopped at my door and unlocked it, then paused. "This is it. Last chance to change your mind." She shifted the baby in her arms and gave me a look that was equal parts gratitude and skepticism. "I changed my mind about you the moment you showed up at the park. Let's see if you can change yours about me." I pushed the door open and we stepped inside. My apartment looked different seeing it through her eyes. Cleaner than it needed to be, more expensive than necessary. All the furniture carefully chosen from the same catalog, matching and coordinated and utterly impersonal. It looked like a hotel room. It looked like no one actually lived there. Ottoline stood in the entryway, taking it all in. "It's nice. It's sterile. It's safe." She clutched the baby closer. That's all that matters right now. I showed her the second bedroom, the one I'd been using as an office. There was a desk and a chair and bookshelves lined with books I'd bought but never read, professional development texts and bestsellers that everyone said were important. The room smelled like dust and neglect. "We'll move everything out," I said. "Get you a real bed, a crib for him, whatever you need." "I don't need much." "You need more than 2 garbage bags worth of belongings." She set the baby down on the carpet, and he immediately started squirming. She sat beside him, her hand on his stomach, keeping him safe. "I don't know how to accept this. I don't know how to let someone help me." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." She looked up at me with those exhausted, wary eyes. "What if I can't pay you back?" "I'm not keeping track." "You should. Everyone always keeps track eventually." "Then I'll be different." She turned her attention back to the baby, running her fingers over his tiny hands, his impossible small feet. "He deserves better than this. Better than me sleeping in parks and watering down formula. He deserves a real mother." "You are a real mother. You've kept him alive in circumstances that would break most people. That's more than enough." "Is it?" "Yes." She was quiet for a long time. Then she started crying, silently, tears running down her face without any sound. She didn't cover her face or turn away. She just let herself cry, like someone who'd been holding it in too long. I sat down beside her on the carpet. I didn't try to comfort her or tell her everything would be okay. I just sat there while she cried, bearing witness to her pain, because it was the only thing I could think to do. Eventually she stopped. She wiped her face with her sleeve and picked up the baby, holding him close. "Thank you," she whispered, "for coming back, for looking for me, for all of it." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You could have stayed on your vacation. You could have told yourself you tried and given up. You could have done what everyone else did and decided I was someone else's problem. But you didn't." She met my eyes. "That matters more than you know." I wanted to tell her I'd done the bare minimum. I wanted to tell her that helping one person didn't make me a good person, didn't erase the door I'd closed or the years I'd spent sleepwalking through a carefully constructed life. But she was looking at me like I'd done something heroic, and maybe for her, I had. "Get some rest," I said instead. "Tomorrow we'll start figuring everything else out." She nodded and stood slowly, cradling the baby. "Where should I sleep tonight?" "The couch folds out. I'll get you sheets and blankets. Tomorrow we'll go shopping for a real bed." "I can sleep anywhere. I've been sleeping on benches for weeks." "Well, tonight you're sleeping on a mattress, even if it's a pull-out couch." I set up the bed while she changed the baby's diaper on the floor, using supplies from the bags I'd brought. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this hundreds of times in difficult circumstances. When she finished, she laid him in the center of the made-up bed and built a wall of pillows around him so he wouldn't roll off. "He'll wake up every few hours," she said. "He's always hungry. I'm sorry if he keeps you awake." "I don't care. Feed him whenever he needs it." She nodded and climbed onto the bed beside her son, curling around him like a parenthesis. She was asleep in seconds, her breathing evening out into the deep rhythm of exhaustion, finally released. I stood watching them for a moment. This woman I didn't know. This baby I'd never met before today. These 2 people who were now living in my apartment, depending on me, trusting me not to fail them the way everyone else had failed them. The weight of that responsibility settled over me like a heavy coat. I thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the complications and difficulties and moments where I'd want to quit, all the times when helping would be harder than I anticipated, and my patience would run thin, and I'd wonder why I'd ever thought I could do this. But I also thought about that morning weeks ago, the woman sitting on my doorstep, the door closing between us, the person I'd been in that moment, rushing to catch a flight, prioritizing my vacation over someone else's crisis. I couldn't be that person anymore. I turned off the light and went to my own bedroom. Through the walls, I could hear the soft sounds of the baby stirring, Ottoline murmuring comfort, the sounds of other people living in my space, disrupting my careful quiet. It should have bothered me. Instead, it sounded like hope. The first week was harder than I expected and easier than I feared. Ottoline moved through my apartment like a ghost, trying to take up as little space as possible. She apologized constantly for the baby crying, for using too much hot water in the shower, for eating the food I'd bought specifically for her to eat. Every apology felt like a small cut, a reminder of how thoroughly the world had taught her that her needs were an inconvenience. I tried to undo that teaching. I bought a crib and assembled it in the second bedroom, clearing out all my office furniture and donating it to a charity resale shop. I bought real baby supplies, not just the necessities, but the things that made life easier: a baby swing, a bouncer seat, soft blankets, and tiny clothes in colors brighter than institutional beige. Ottoline watched me spend money with a mixture of gratitude and panic. "This is too much," she kept saying. "You don't need to do all this." "I want to." "Why? What do you get out of it?" The question was fair. I'd been asking myself the same thing late at night when the baby's crying woke me, and I lay in bed listening to Ottoline pace the floor, singing soft songs to calm him. What was I getting out of this arrangement? Disruption to my routine, expenses I hadn't budgeted for, the constant low-level stress of being responsible for two other people's well-being, but also something else, something I didn't have words for yet, a sense of purpose that my job had never provided, a feeling of being necessary in a way that mattered, the knowledge that my actions had direct, visible impact on someone's life. "I get to be useful," I finally answered. "Really useful. Not just productive or efficient or profitable. Actually necessary." She looked at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "You're a strange person." "I'm learning that." By the end of the first week, we'd developed a routine. I went to work during the day while Ottoline stayed home with the baby. I'd come back in the evening and she'd have dinner started using groceries I'd bought and recipes she remembered from a life that felt, to her, like ancient history. We'd eat together, talking about small things: the baby's sleep schedule, the weather, carefully avoiding the bigger questions about what came next. At night, I'd hold the baby while Ottoline showered, giving her 20 minutes of uninterrupted peace. She always emerged looking slightly more human, slightly less haunted. Small victories. On the 8th day, she asked me about my job. We were sitting on the couch, the baby asleep in his swing, and she'd been quiet for a while in that way that meant she was working up courage to say something. "What do you do? For work, I mean." "I'm a consultant, business strategy, organizational efficiency, that sort of thing." "Do you like it?" I thought about lying, about giving her the answer I'd given everyone else for 6 years, about pretending that my career was fulfilling and meaningful and exactly what I wanted. But she'd asked me a direct question, and she deserved a direct answer. "No, I'm very good at it, but I don't like it. It's just something I do because I don't know what else to do." "Why don't you do something else?" "Because I've built my entire life around this job. My apartment, my savings, my identity. If I'm not Thessaly, the successful consultant, I don't know who I am." She nodded slowly. "I understand that. I built my entire life around being someone's wife. When he left, I didn't just lose my partner. I lost my whole sense of self." "Do you miss him?" "Sometimes. Not him specifically, but what he represented. Safety, stability, the illusion that I had my life figured out." She paused. "Mostly I'm just angry. At him for leaving. At myself for not seeing it coming. At the whole world for being so randomly cruel." "Anger makes sense. Does it? Everyone keeps telling me I need to move on. Get over it. Focus on the future instead of dwelling on the past. But how do you move on when the past is still actively destroying your present?" "I don't know, but I don't think you have to have the answer yet." She looked at the baby, sleeping peacefully in his swing. His tiny chest rose and fell with the automatic rhythm of breathing. "He's the only thing keeping me going. Some days I wake up and I don't want to exist anymore. The weight of everything that's gone wrong feels too heavy. But then he cries and I have to get up. I have to feed him. I have to keep him alive. And somehow that's enough to get me through another day." "You're stronger than you think. Or weaker. I can't tell the difference anymore." The conversation left me unsettled in a way I couldn't articulate. I kept thinking about what she'd said about not wanting to exist, about the weight being too heavy. I'd felt that too, in my own way. Not the same circumstances, not the same stakes, but the same fundamental exhaustion with the performance of living. The next morning, I called my boss and told him I needed to take a leave of absence. Family emergency, I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. He wasn't happy about it, but I'd built up enough goodwill over 6 years that he couldn't easily refuse. How long? He asked. I don't know yet. A month, maybe more. We need you on the Peterson account. I'll send my notes to whoever's covering for me. They'll be fine without me. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. This isn't like you, Crane. I know, maybe that's the problem. When I told Ottoline I'd taken leave, she looked at me with alarm. You can't do that. You can't risk your job because of me. I'm not risking anything. I have leave saved up. And even if I didn't, I'd rather be here than there right now. Why? You barely know me. You don't owe me this. It's not about owing. It's about choosing. I'm choosing to be here. She didn't say anything, but her eyes filled with tears again. She cried more easily now than she had that first night, like something had cracked open inside her and couldn't quite close. I took it as progress. At least she was letting herself feel things. With both of us home, the days took on a different rhythm. I helped with the baby in the mornings, learning how to change diapers and prepare bottles and interpret the different types of crying. Ottoline taught me with patience I didn't know she possessed, guiding my hands, correcting my mistakes gently. You're getting better at this, she said one afternoon after I'd successfully soothed the baby through a crying fit. I have a good teacher. Or you're just naturally good with him. I don't think there's anything natural about any of this. It's all just practice and paying attention. That's all parenting is. Practice and attention and hoping you don't break them. We started taking walks together, the baby strapped to Ottoline's chest in a carrier I'd bought. Short walks at first, just around the block, then longer ones to the coffee shop on the corner, to the small park a few streets over. I watched her slowly unfold, like a plant that had been kept in the dark, finally getting sunlight. One afternoon, we were sitting on a bench in the park, different from the one where I'd found her, and she said something that changed everything. I need to start looking for work. You don't have to rush. Yes, I do. I can't live off your charity forever. It's not charity. Then what is it? I didn't have a good answer. What were we to each other? Not friends exactly, not family. Something undefined, something I couldn't name. Two people trying to save each other from different kinds of drowning. It's mutual aid, I finally said. You're helping me as much as I'm helping you. How am I helping you? All I do is take up space in your apartment and use your resources. You're giving me a reason to be better, to do better. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Now I'm actually living. She shook her head. That's not fair. I can't be your redemption project. You're not. You're just you, and I'm just trying to help. But what happens when you get tired of helping? What happens when this stops being novel and starts being a burden? What happens when you realize you've tied yourself to someone else's problems and you want your old life back? I don't want my old life back. You say that now. I mean it. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in her face I hadn't seen before. Not just wariness, fear, real, bone-deep fear. Everyone leaves eventually, she said quietly. My husband, my mother, every friend I thought I had. They all left when I needed them most. You will too. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. And when you do, I'll be right back where I started. Except this time I'll have gotten used to safety first. This time it'll be worse when I lose it. I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. No one can. She was right. I couldn't promise. Life was unpredictable. Circumstances changed. People changed. Maybe I would get tired. Maybe I would realize I'd bitten off more than I could chew. Maybe helping her was just a phase, a reaction to my own crisis of meaning, and once I figured myself out, I'd move on. But I didn't think so. Something had shifted in me that morning when I opened my door and saw her sitting there. Something had broken open and rearranged itself. I wasn't the person I'd been before, and I couldn't go back to being her even if I wanted to. You're right, I said. I can't promise I'll never leave. I can't promise this will last forever. But I can promise that right now, in this moment, I'm here. And I'll be here tomorrow. And I'll keep being here as long as you need me. That's not much of a promise. It's the only one I can make. She nodded slowly, accepting the limitation. Okay, but I still need to look for work. I need to start building my own life again. I can't just exist in yours. Okay. What kind of work do you want? I don't know. Something flexible. Something that pays enough to eventually get my own place. Something with childcare options. She laughed bitterly. So basically, something impossible. There has to be something. You'd think. But try finding a job when you've been homeless for 2 months. Try explaining the gap in your resume. Try getting hired when you smell like desperation. You don't smell like desperation anymore. Don't I? I thought about it. About the way she still moved through my apartment like she expected to be evicted at any moment. About the way she apologized for existing. About the way she hoarded food in the bedroom, little stashes of crackers and granola bars hidden in drawers, preparing for the inevitable moment when abundance turned back into scarcity. Okay, maybe a little, I admitted, but we can work on that. Over the next few weeks, we developed a plan. She would start looking for remote work, something she could do from my apartment while watching the baby. I would help her update her resume, filling in the gaps with carefully worded explanations that didn't include the words homeless or abandoned. She turned out to be good with computers, better than I expected. She'd done data entry and customer service before, and she picked up new software quickly. I used my professional network to find leads, reaching out to contacts I hadn't talked to in years, calling in favors I'd accumulated and never cashed in. Slowly, impossibly, things started to improve. She landed a part-time remote position doing customer service for an online retailer. The pay wasn't great, but it was something. Her own money, her own work. The first time she got paid, she tried to give me rent. I refused. She insisted. We argued about it in the kitchen while the baby napped, our voices rising until we were both yelling, releasing months of accumulated tension. I am not a charity case, she shouted. I need to contribute. I need to pay my own way. You are contributing. You clean the apartment. You cook dinners. You're raising a child in impossible circumstances. That's worth more than money. Not to me. Not when I've spent 2 months being completely dependent on other people's goodwill. I need to feel like I'm earning my place here. You don't have to earn anything. You belong here because I want you here. Why? Why do you want me here? I still don't understand. I didn't have a good answer. Or rather, I had too many answers, all of them insufficient. Because helping her helped me. Because I'd spent 6 years living a life that meant nothing, and she'd given me something that mattered. Because somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being a stranger I was helping and become someone I cared about. Because her baby smiled at me now when I walked in the room, and that felt like the best thing I'd ever accomplished. Because we're friends, I finally said. Because you matter to me, because I don't want you to leave. She stared at me, shocked. Friends? Yes, friends. Is that so strange? I thought you were just helping me until I got back on my feet. I thought this was temporary. It doesn't have to be. She sat down heavily on one of the kitchen chairs. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to trust that something good won't be taken away. Neither do I. But we're doing it anyway. She looked at the money in her hand, the first paycheck she'd earned in months. I need to feel like I'm contributing something real. Please, let me pay something, even if it's small. Okay, give me $100 a month, for groceries. That's nothing. That's insulting. It's what I'm comfortable accepting. Take it or leave it. She took it, but she wasn't happy about it. That night she made the most elaborate meal she'd ever attempted, like she was trying to prove her worth through food. We ate together, the baby and his bouncer between us, and it felt like something had shifted. Some balance had been restored. Time moved differently now, not in the empty way it had before, where weeks passed without anything changing, but in a full way, dense with small moments that accumulated into meaning. The baby's first smile. Ottoline's first full night of sleep in months. The afternoon we spent at a free museum, pretending to be normal people doing normal things. I started noticing things about her I hadn't seen before. The way she hummed while she worked, unconscious melodies that sounded like lullabies. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking. The strength in her hands when she held the baby, protective and gentle at once. The way she laughed, rare but genuine, like every moment of joy was hard-won and therefore precious. 3 months after she'd moved in, we were sitting on the couch late at night. The baby was finally asleep after a particularly difficult evening of teething. We were both exhausted, drinking tea because we were too tired for anything stronger. "I've been thinking," Ottoline said carefully, "about what happens next." My stomach dropped. "Are you leaving?" "What?" "No, the opposite. I was thinking maybe I should stay. Long term, if that's okay with you." "Of course it's okay. This is your home." "Is it? Or is it just a temporary shelter I'm borrowing until I get strong enough to leave?" "It's whatever you want it to be." She turned to face me fully. "I want it to be home. Real home. The kind of place where I belong, not just the kind of place where I'm tolerated." "You do belong here." "Then why do I still feel like I'm waiting for you to realize what a mistake you made? Why do I still pack my important things every night in case I need to leave quickly? Why can't I let myself believe this is real? Because everyone you've trusted has hurt you. Because your survival has depended on not getting attached. Because feeling safe is scarier than feeling threatened when you're used to things going wrong." She blinked at me, surprised. "How do you know that?" "Because I feel it too. Different reasons, same fear. I'm terrified that one day I'm going to wake up and you'll be gone, and I'll be alone again in this empty apartment with no purpose, except working a job I hate." "You're afraid I'll leave?" "Yes. I'm afraid you'll make me leave." "I won't. I'm afraid you won't have a choice, that something will happen and you'll have to choose between me and your job, or your future, or your own well-being, and you'll choose yourself, the way everyone does eventually. Then we're both afraid of the same thing, abandonment, being left behind. How do we get past that?" "I don't know. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just keep choosing to stay even when it's hard." She nodded slowly. "I can do that. I've survived harder things than hard. So have I." We sat in silence, both of us holding our cooling tea, both of us afraid and uncertain and committed anyway. Outside the window, the city continued its eternal rhythm. Cars passing, sirens in the distance, the ordinary sounds of other people's lives. "Thank you," Ottoline said quietly, "for coming back, for looking for me, for making space in your life for someone else's mess. Thank you for trusting me enough to stay. I didn't have much choice." "Yes, you did. You could have refused my help. You could have left a dozen times. You chose to stay. I chose survival." "Same thing." She smiled, tired and real. "Maybe." The baby started crying from the bedroom. We both moved to stand up, but she got there first. "I've got him. You rest." I watched her walk toward the bedroom, her movements confident now, sure. She'd gained weight. Her hair was clean and cut. She wore clothes that fit properly instead of salvaged rags. She looked like someone who had a future. And maybe she did. Maybe we both did. Not the futures we'd planned. Not the lives we'd imagined before everything fell apart. But something new. Something we were building together from the wreckage of our individual disasters. I couldn't save everyone. I couldn't undo the cruelty of a world that abandoned people when they needed help most. But I could save one person. I could make space for 2 people in my empty life. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. And that night, sitting in my apartment that finally felt like a home, listening to Ottoline sing softly to her baby in the next room, I decided that something was enough. Not everything, not justice or systemic change or the fixing of all broken systems, just something. Just this. Just 2 people who'd found each other at the worst possible moment and decided against all logic and self-protection to stay. So please tell me what you thought of the story in the comments below. And if you liked this tale, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me to keep creating these wonderful stories. Until tomorrow, all my love.